And as dangerous as it is, and it is indeed dangerous, we're going to talk about that in a bit, the danger we see is, don't forget it, born of his political weakness, born of his unpopularity, not his political strength. I mean, this is someone who views himself as president of the 40% of the country that likes him. He's the king of red America. He brags about his approval rating among the Republican Party. And he says it shouldn't count, really, the coronavirus deaths in blue states. You shouldn't count those against him because those are blue states. I mean, this is someone who surrounds himself at every opportunity with nothing but the most rabidly adoring members of his own base. People who are willing to risk a once-in-a-century respiratory infection to watch him riff about low-flow toilets. But if he for an instant sets foot into the rest of America to see the majority of Americans that do not approve of him, this is what it looks like. This was the scene today when the president went to view the casket of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whose dying wish was that he not appoint her successor. Man there, he is not strong. He is weak. It's striking, isn't it, to see him confronted with just a tiny little assemblage of the people in the majority of the country that do not like him. It's been a while. I mean, the campaign tries to keep him in front of only the most adoring audiences in an effort to project the idea that, well, everybody loves Donald Trump. They take great pains to protect him from ever appearing before regular Americans. But when they do make that mistake and send him into non-MAGA parts of America, this is what happens. Remember when he went to the Washington Nationals game last year and got audibly booed by the fans? Well, that was a disaster, so then they had to make up for it. They figured, well, what about a UFC fight? Madison Square Garden, UFC folks, those are our people. But there were a lot of boos there, too. Not quite as bad, but it was close. And they finally figured, good Lord, let's try an LSU versus Alabama college football game in Tuscaloosa. And that worked out. Lots of applause. Took 3 tries, and the president found his safe space. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This is a politically weak president who wants desperately for you to believe he is strong. And that political weakness is the thing that pro-democracy forces in America have on their side. But at the same time, that weakness is also what is driving him and his party into ever more dangerous actions, which we have to take seriously and confront.